Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day. Jennifer is grateful for the opportunity to educate, empower, and inspire you with powerful conversations, insights, and new viewpoints. Here's your host, Jennifer J. Hammond.
This is Jennifer Hammond, and I'm so excited. As you know, I'm always looking for people who are doing something wonderful in the world and really making the world a better place. And I have an amazing couple to introduce you to today. I just love when we can find somebody who is really heart-centered and interested in making the world a better place. So they are definitely changing the story from despair to relief for families impacted by the wide array of dysfunctions and addictions. Certified counselors Scott and Jenny Graham have been in the industry since 1988. We're in year 2021 now. Boy, you have a lot of things to be looking at now with all of the craziness that's out there. But first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure because I know how much you are very heart-centered and focused on helping people. Let's go ahead and start with your story. I mean, not everybody can do this kind of work because it can really rip apart your heart when you see some of the terrible things that are a result of the dysfunction or addictions. So why are you doing this?
Well, it goes way back to the 1980s. I was an undercover LA County Sheriff's deputy working out of West Hollywood, undercover. And I got a little too deep undercover, had a personal life that was in disarray, and everything came crashing down. And within a 6-month period, instead of taking everybody to jail, I was self-medicating and, dealing with my own personal problems in a very, very unhealthy way. And ultimately, I lost my career. And I got arrested while on duty, made ABC, NBC, and CBS. It was that's not a good way to get on national TV. But nevertheless, I was in a really, really dark place. And then fast forward a few months, Jen.
Yeah, we met 8 months later, 6 months later.
About 6 months later.
Yeah, about 6 months later. And so he's telling me this on our first date. And so you can imagine I was just a little wide-eyed, and I'm listening to his story, and I've got the best attorney in Los Angeles, and he's never lost a case representing a first responder, but I am facing 6 to 8. And I'm thinking, great, hot, handsome, fun, pen pal, right? I'm gonna get a hand cramp getting to know you because I'll be your pen pal. And so I could kind of see straight at that point in terms of thinking that he really would end up doing time. And he couldn't see that at that point in time. So it was a really exciting. We're not giving marital advice on Jennifer's show today, people.
Right.
But yeah, we ended up meeting and marrying in less than 3 weeks. Yes.
So even though we could say it wasn't good first date material, maybe it was.
Maybe it was. That's right. I've never been bored. And so that's saying a lot. And our 35th wedding anniversary is coming right up.
Yeah.
So
how we got in this industry is once I got all put back together, I did end up doing 13 months of prison, and rightfully so. But it was the worst and the best time away because I really rediscovered who I was. We fell deeper in love and knew each other in a different way because we had 9 months together before that happened. And we had a child while I was away. But anyway, I got out, and then this industry found me.
Mm-hmm.
I was out at a car dealership, and a big guy comes walking up, and he knew nothing about cars. I mean, nothing. And I knew it. And I said, "How long have you been doing this?" And he said, "About 6 months." I said, "Well, it kind of shows what you used to do." He said, "I was a cop out here. I was out in California, and I stole $35,000 of cocaine out of the evidence locker. I was the Officer of the Year, Medal of Valor, head of narcotics statewide, and I fell prey to this, and my jaw just dropped and went, me too." And it's like, unbelievable how we met. And he was doing talks at service organizations and churches and schools and businesses. And he would get this thing called intervention work out of it. I thought, what is that? I never even knew what that was. And so we formed a relationship, a friendship very quickly. We formed a business. And then off we go, talking about our story, educating people about the problems of dysfunction, addiction, mental health, all those things. And we get an intervention here or there out of it. And it just grew from there. And to date, we have done over 2,000 interventions between the two of us. And, we wake up unemployed every day and wait for the phone to ring, and people call us with their problems and we say we can help. And a handful will hire us and we go out there and help them bring change.
And my heart is to speak to the family, because the family doesn't know what to do. And they're hearing this modern messaging that you're powerless and you need to let go. You need to detach and let go. Some say let go and let God. I like that version a lot, but it's bad intel. It's not fully correct, because there are things we can do, and we can and we can interrupt people on bended knee and with great love, and actually
wake up
what's gone dormant, what's literally in hibernation. And so it's very loving. And again, my heart for the family is that they go undercover, like you were undercover. Well, they go undercover trying to hide their problems. So I picture people coming and you're helping them buy a new piece of real estate, and they're just compartmentalizing, and they really have all this stuff on their mind, and they really have a relationship, a primary relationship, someone they care about deeply, that they're trying to detach, and yet all the turmoil inside says, no, don't let go. There's one more thing you can do, and they don't know what that is. And that's why we do what we do, because we have that one more thing.
Yeah.
I love that. And thank you so much because I think your story is so impactful. And again, because someone who's probably listening or might be watching the video is really out there and needs you. And I want to take this and apply it to real estate, because as real estate agents, we definitely get into people's business in a way that is a little complicated and sometimes very uncomfortable. And I mean, partly because we're talking about their money, which of course was one of those taboos. Don't talk about money. But then I can't tell you how many times I've been the first phone call that one of the married couple called. I'm the first person that they called when they have finally made the decision. They're definitely going to divorce. And so they know financially they have to sell the house. And it's for all sorts of reasons. And then, of course, they immediately are looking for me to put on my hat as a counselor. And I'm like, no. I'm a real estate person and that's my job. So I'm curious on how, if you could take what you know, and then for someone who's a real estate professional and they kind of get thrown into, and maybe it's like, for instance, the scenario I just painted. So what about there is a real estate agent gets a phone call and there's a divorce, but part of what's happening is one of them is actually facing an addiction and trying to keep it undercover. And yet as the real estate agent, again, a lot of times, as you probably know, the person on the outside of the situation, a lot of times can see it with new eyes and can recognize right away, oh my gosh, there's an addiction happening here. And like for me, briefly, just since you don't know a whole lot about me personally, my brother was a crack addict. And it was a very interesting, and we've gone through a lot of experiences, and not to go into that whole thing, but enough to know that I can recognize the signs of a drug addict pretty fast. And unfortunately, my mother was an addict as well, an alcoholic and an addict. So I can recognize signs that most people wouldn't. However, as a real estate agent, I feel incredibly uncomfortable going, what do I do with this? Because I see what's happening. So if I called somebody like you, or would that be appropriate, or what do we do? What advice do you have for the real estate professional?
Well, I've got a number of thoughts as you described everything, and thank you for sharing. That part of you. I think it's really important. You get it, but I want to first try not to just focus on a drug or alcohol or addiction issue, and just use the word dysfunction, because it could be a mental health issue that's just taking everybody off the rails. It could be a process addiction, like an eating disorder, or gambling, or gaming, or something that's really unhealthy. And oftentimes we have had the opportunity in that same situation where there's a divorce imminent if things don't change. And through our process of intervention, there's a reconciliation and a forgiveness piece that happens through the work that we do. So to answer your question, at least from my opinion, would be there might be one more thing you can do. And unfortunately, there's a lot of counselors at different levels, PhD, mental health, just straight drug and alcohol counselors who don't really understand intervention, at least the way that we do it. So I think I would maybe just point somebody towards an independent interventionist that is not connected to any treatment center at all. So there's no bias as to where they would be pointed towards, to just at least have a visit and see if that's just one more meeting that can happen.
Right.
And if it doesn't fix the marriage, at least they've done everything they're supposed to do. They can part ways in a cleaner manner.
And so let's talk about that, because you just said something I thought was really important, is we all define addiction differently, or dysfunction. But can you define, first of all, what does intervention mean and what would that look like? Can you paint us a picture of that?
Yeah. You want to do that?
So an intervention is just a glorified family meeting. It's really.
It feels like a surprise party.
Right. I have unrest, or I have concern, and I just want to be vulnerable and share with you. And so it's from, at least the way we do this, a posture of I'm confiding in you. And so the big error out there is that people think of intervention and they think of absolutes, and they think of
calling people out.
They're spinning worst case scenario, and then they're jumping to fatalistic, I'm done, I'm through kinds of language. And so we're opposed to all of that. Mm-hmm. And just like you just said, what they're doing is calling them out. And what we're wanting to do is invite them in. Yeah. We want to call them in. We want to call them in out of the confusion, in out of the secrecy, because it's that isolation and that double life that, you have the functioning addictions and dysfunctions where they're trying to compartmentalize and they don't want anyone to know, which was you. That was you. So
we're trying to, what happens with people in dysfunction is they forget who they are.
Right.
And they're very focused on what they are. And they think everybody sees them the way that they see themselves, which is, of course, not true in most cases. Mm-hmm. So therefore, what we're trying to do is wake up the part of that person that has gone dormant, the part they've forgotten about. And people will say yes to help or change if we highlight what's right in them versus highlighting what's wrong with them.
Which brings up another thing that everyone does wrong when they try and do confrontations by themselves is they appoint themselves judge and jury. They appoint themselves executor, and they're trying to validate and justify all their concern. And I can hear me loud and clear, everyone listening, that is not going to be effective. It might short term if you have some serious leverage, but it isn't effective long term. And we're thinking long term. So where people think of an intervention as this interruption where I get you to go get some help, it's really more than that invitation. We're trying to sew in relationships that are really frayed or strained, mm-hmm. and we're trying to fray into long-term recovery for life. And so it'd be like if you get to the hospital in an ambulance and then you only get surgery, but you never do any follow-up. So even though we aren't micromanaging the follow-up, we're sewing into the long-term of the relationships. Right. And so it reconciles these unreconciled love bank accounts between people. So in the nutshell, it's a glorified family meeting, or if it's a workplace intervention, or a school place intervention, it's what it is it's a meeting to help someone
speak their truth in a way that can be received.
And to invite that person who you're sharing with to step into what's next, what could be next, because that's the part that isn't messed up yet. And right. The error they make is looking at what's wrong. And so that's not the conversation for an intervention.
Yeah, I think one of the stables that I have learned with so many things in life is continuing to look backwards and, go over the mistakes over and over. That's not going to get us anywhere, but looking forward and what can we do different? Or again, one thing you said that I think is so important for anything, whether you're doing real estate, whether you're looking at addiction, anything you're looking at is looking at it from a different viewpoint. And sometimes, again, you can't be the one to do it. You need someone else to share their viewpoint so that maybe you can agree with it, maybe you can't. And I'm curious, Scott, when you were undercover, and I think it's interesting, you didn't have an intervention. You actually just got caught catching, stealing the evidence, the drugs.
Yep, I did. And it was another form of intervention for sure, but it wasn't the bottom I needed to experience to cause change. I just went in another route to go further undercover, so to speak. And that's a real premise for what we're trying to do. A healthy intervention is raising a person's bottom so they can effectively see the future in a different frame than what they might be thinking. And it gives the participants, the family and friends, or supervisors if it's a work, it gives them an opportunity to not shrink back from their truth, but say it in a more effective way where it can be heard. So there's no shame, no guilt, no threat, no condemnation, persecution, none of that. Yet we help people be so incredibly direct. They often go, I can say that. It's like if you own your perspective and you own your feelings, you can say anything. But too often people say, you need to, you should,
right,
you can't, you have to.
There's that pointer.
Yeah.
Put your pointer back in its holster.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to say it. Put that pointer away. I used to think it's like a kindergarten teacher with their finger shaking their finger at you. Nobody likes that. Don't do that to people. So back to the question of, so how would you approach this as a real estate professional who is with clients? How would you breach this subject to see if you can be of help? Because a lot of times, just as real estate agents, we are trying to be of help, not just trying to sell and just try to make money. We are really, our heart is really to help. And I more than once I've counseled people, it's not a good time to sell. And they're like, you're the real estate agent. Are you supposed to tell us to sell anytime just because you don't make a commission unless, and I laugh and I'm like, well, maybe that's the way other real estate agents do it, but not me. But I think most of us really do have such a good heart and a heart to, how can we help this family? And especially, as you just said, if we could put back together a couple and a family, to me, that would be so much more powerful than selling, 5 new homes. I don't care. But how do you breach that? How do you breach that and break that egg into whatever kind of explosion that might happen, including being considered unprofessional?
Well, I think first and foremost, you don't want to try to get into a mindset that you're there to fix the problem.
Right.
That problem has been longstanding more times than not. And even a seasoned therapist wouldn't try to unpack it all and fix it. Like us, we're trying to build a bridge that gets people effectively where they need to go. So, to have a good ear and to listen, and to always take the frame from, well, if I were you, this is what I might do versus this is what you ought to do or should do.
Because then there's that pointer again, right?
So I think having, and like in real estate, there's a lot of people out there doing intervention work that you wouldn't want to intervene on your dog. I mean, it's that bad. And they're in it for the wrong reasons. Because like you, we don't take every case that comes our way. We're vetting it out. We're seeing, is there a healthy motive behind it? What's the end game here with what you're trying to accomplish? And so just to have some resources available, that might be local to, any agent that's out there is a really good first step. And I would recommend that you kind of vet it out a little bit, like pretend that you're the person in need. I'm needing this thing. I think I need an intervention. Tell me about your process and see if it fits and feels good, because when you pass a number on, your reputation goes with it.
Right.
And it takes a long time to develop a healthy reputation that can be lost in 1 minute.
Yep.
So absolutely. I think keep your circle small, keep your referrals small, and keep checking on your referrals to make sure they're still doing what they're doing the way they said they were doing it when you first spoke to them.
Absolutely. So we're almost out of time. I want to make sure that we get to this point where I'm known for saying yay, and I love helping other people say yay. So I'm wondering if you guys will share, how do you create yays in your day?
Oh, gosh. I mean, when I just wake up in the morning and have my first cup of coffee, there's a yay moment for me. But in a deeper level, though, my yay moments are when we get people to say yes to help. And it is a celebration of yay. People are so relieved. They're so happy. When I'm able to help a person on the phone, and it doesn't even have to turn into, work for us, that's a yay moment. Because, well, we got a phone call just a couple of days ago from a couple that we had done family programming for. Right. And they reached out to us because they knew that we were safe and it will pay you. It's like, no, we don't want any money. Let's talk for a few minutes. Let's just have a visit, And they said, we've been in treatment for 60 days. And the 2 hours we spent with you in family programming and right now mean more to us than all 60 days. Wow. Well, there's a yay moment. In fact, my whole body had goosebumps. It was all clapping. My whole body was clapping. Yay!
Yeah, and with each other, we like to make yay moments by getting on the golf course.
Oh, yeah.
There is something, I had never golfed till I met Scott, and then I realized, I better take up golf if I want to see him. And because he's a worker, so between work and golf, it's like there would not be much room for me.
Oh,
so that's our yay moment from a self-care. I want to tell all the listeners out there that self-care is not selfish. Please take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely. So every time I hear that zing when I hit that driver, a good shot, that's a yay moment. But from an emotional point of view, it's not waiting till it's somebody's birthday to say, I love you, I care about you. You make me laugh when I remember this, or, this is a treasure to my heart. So that encouragement that the yay moments don't have to be on a traditional holiday, but make every day a holiday that way, where you catch up your accounts with the people you love and you tell them why they're special. And then you'll never have to say, I wish I'd told them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that is so powerful. It's so easy, I think, to get busy in your day and then not create those yay moments. So thank you both for sharing that. So if people wanted to get in touch with you and find out more, how do they do that?
So we have a toll-free number, and that is 844-588-3267.
And we have a website, carefrontations.com, and there's really helpful little educational 1, 2, 3 minute videos. Mm-hmm. And we're just trying to get people's perception where that hope can come up, but not this fluffy hope, but real strategy. Yeah. Yes, and always adding to those and really wanting to give more than we receive. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm so grateful for not only the work you do, but thank you for being on my show today. And I would love to ask you to raise your voices, and I'll count us down and then just say yay with me as we go off the air. So 3, 2, 1, yay!